Jonathan Mark, in your book, Scientology A to Xenu, great title, you mentioned Scientologists being forced to do sec checks for perceived infractions. Leah Remini mentioned being charged $300,000 for a lengthy round of sec checks. What happens if the Scientologist who is subjected to those sec checks is tapped out because the Regis already separated him from his money? His home is triple mortgaged, his kids have no college funds, the 401k is gone, etc. Does the church sec check him anyway? How does it get Scientologists to pay for their mandatory sec checking if they literally have no more money? There's a policy letter that L. Ron Hubbard wrote called Free Service, Free Fall, where he expressly forbid the church to ever deliver services for free that should be paid for. I mean, they have introductory services when you walk in off the street that they'll give you for free, the testing and showing you some films or maybe doing a lecture play or something like that. But when it comes to doing classes or courses, when it comes to getting auditing or sec checking, which is a kind of auditing, you pay. You have to pay. And if they don't make you pay, the staff get in a ton of trouble, right? So no free service. So this presents them with a conundrum when a Scientologist has to, is ordered to sec checking, right? A security check, which is an interrogatory. They stick him on the meter, they ask him, sharp and pointy questions, and they expect the person to, cough up the answers and tell their deep, dark secrets and all the things that they've been doing that they are not wanting to tell anybody that they've been doing. That's a security check in Scientology. So if they have a problem where a person can't pay and they work the guy over, like you've said in your question, and he's got no money, basically what happens is he's kind of just kicked out until he gets the money. And he's kind of considered persona non grata, right? Like he's not, depending on the situation, there are lots of different situations where a person might need sec checking. Let's say the guy got in a lot of trouble. He did something like he was on the internet or something, and they want to sec check him to get all the data about, why he was on the internet, what he looked at, who he's been talking to, that sort of thing. Well, if they can't get that data from him because he can't pay for it, then they'll just tell him, okay, well, you go figure it out, you make it go right, you borrow the money from somebody or whatever, and if he can't, then he's not going to be allowed to come around in the church until he coughs up that money and pays for that sec checking. So he's basically, kind of ostracized. If he's connected to, like if he's got a wife or kids who also come into the church and do services, they also might start feeling some of that ostracizing and might start being considered a problem because they're not handling him to handle himself, see? And the only way he's supposed to be handling himself is to pay the church money so he can confess his sins, right? And they, as his family members or his closest, relations, are now going to be held responsible. Their feet's going to be held to the fire because realize that, of course, it's all about the money. And if the church can't get money from somebody, they're going to pressure the person to, somehow figure out how to get that money so that he can, avail himself of the church services. And Scientologists are all convinced that these services are the only thing that really matters. Hubbard makes it clear in the policies, and the church staff believe that there isn't anything else going on in the world that you could possibly give your money to that's more important than Scientology, right? And Hubbard said, stocks, bonds, cars, houses, kids, college funds, all this stuff is of transitory. It's transitory and impermanent, and Scientology is the only thing that brings permanent, lasting gain that lasts forever. So, when you scale these things out, you weigh them out, you go, oh, gee, I guess this Scientology really comes out ahead. And so that's the viewpoint that the pressure comes in on this person. And so if they're in a lot of trouble, then they're not going to be allowed to come around in the church, and they're going to basically get short shrift. If it's just that the sec check is the person's next step and it's not like he's really in a lot of trouble or something, then he can still come around and go to events, or maybe he's paid for some classes. He could still do those classes and that sort of thing, and he wouldn't quite be in so much trouble. And they would encourage him to get on a payment plan, something, anything, to keep flowing money to the church until he's got it paid for so that he can be saved.